بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As always, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal for His tawfiq. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the means and the resources to achieve that which we are trying to achieve. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He uses us in order to do the work that is necessary in order to unite this ummah. And we bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the last and the final messenger of Allah Azza wa Jal. The topic, brothers and sisters, that was given to me, it's a very, it's in many ways difficult topic too. A topic that Tawakkul and Fatah Makkah, or at least leading to Fatah Makkah, the victory of Makkah. The idea, brothers and sisters, when we talk about Tawakkul is a concept. Reliance, trust in someone, trust in something or someone. It's a concept. Human beings in general, they carry a concept. These concepts are there. Anyone that you ask, Muslim, Kafir, whatever, at least let's say even the kuffar, I'm saying human beings in general, they have to put their trust in someone. Whether they like it or they don't like it. It's something that's there in human beings. But we have a very specific task here. And that task is that we are trying to understand what kind of understanding, what kind of clarity that the sahaba have in order to achieve that political objective, which was to be able to take Makkah, to bring back Makkah in the hands of the Muslims. Yani Makkah being, you're talking about the prize. It was the prize. The Prophet ﷺ enters Makkah with over 10,000, sahaba from every corner. This is the place where the Prophet ﷺ was, the Prophet ﷺ had to leave, or he left, of course, he left for Medina, but in many ways he was not accepted. He was tortured. His Sahaba were tortured, planning to kill him, assassinate him, anybody that followed him. But again, all of this we know. Dr. Ayman spoke about it. All the other different brothers, different speakers today, they spoke about all the different things that happened to the Sahaba. But again, let's go back for a moment and trying to understand. Imagine this for brothers and sisters. The whole goal of establishing the Islamic State or establishing this political entity of Medina, then from there to fight as hard as you can to take those ideas that you believe in to be the most purest form, the most pure ideas directly from Allah Azza wa Jal, to take them to the rest of the world and know that these are the only ideas that can provide humanity with the guidance, with the safety, with a life that is worth living, ideas worth carrying, fikr that can actually take you not only give you success in this world, but also success in the hereafter. Give you life of tranquility and peace and karama, yani izzah, that life here and also Jannah in the hereafter. You had to fight for these ideas. But in order to do all of this, you had to have trust. Trust in who? Trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the work in order to achieve what the Prophet ﷺ achieved in Medina and then coming back to Makkah, it starts in a place called Darul Arqam, a house of a 12-year-old Sahabi, hidden somewhere. And at least the Meccans, they knew what was happening, but it was, as Dr. Ayman mentioned, it was a first 3 years, everybody knew, it was not known, there was private da'wah going on, it was not something openly, the Prophet ﷺ was not openly discussing. They would meet in this place called Darul Arqam, and they would discuss these ideas, and the Prophet ﷺ's whole goal was to build these Sahaba in such a way. In build this Sahaba, we always talk about this, build this Sahaba, build this Sahaba, build this Sahaba, but build this Sahaba with really what? What is it that he is working on in these people? You're talking about 70, 80 people at the end of the day when they left to Medina. Maybe 70, 80 people left with the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. What did he do? What kind of work was he doing in order for these people to have that trust in something that, in the beginning, imagine, you're talking about people who believed in idols, who trusted idols, who worshipped idols. There were people who would eat dates. We're eating dates to break our fast. These people would eat dates, and then the next day you would worship the same dates you're eating. I mean, you think about what kind of level intellectually these people were. You know, I had a brother here the other day, he became Muslim, mashallah, was Hindu. Very smart brother, and subhanAllah, now he's going to Harvard. He'll be starting Harvard Medical School in 2 months. And so we've been talking for a while, mashallah, I became Muslim. Some of the brothers, they know who I'm talking about. And so I was talking to him, I said, man, how did you accept, you are someone going to school, wanting to become a doctor, mashallah, you're going to Boston and this and that, and he's going to Roslyn, I think now, to this, university medical school, stuff like that. I said, did you really actually believe in these statues? I mean, let's have a heart to heart, because he's a Muslim now, but I wanted to know how does that happen, bro? So he's telling me, no one believes in these things. You think my parents, I mean, these guys are all, they're all elite, mashallah, they have, they live in huge homes, palaces. All really it was, what we used to have, it was a means for us to greet and meet people, and it was parties, and we would just go to the so-called puja and whatever it is that they do. He said nothing, nobody believed, people knew, all this is nonsense. Or it was something that people were just kind of, look, we have to have some type of tradition, something to keep us going. You got to have something that you have, I mean, because we're human beings, you need certain things to believe in to fulfill your innate needs, those instincts. So we just kind of did it. So he was telling me a story, and actually, maybe I mentioned this before. There's a 9-year-old, it seems. There's an auntie here. She was a Hindu lady, and she was telling my mom this. She said, "Oh, look, you have this kid. He's always making fun. Every time we take him to this temple, he's making fun." I said, "Making fun of what?" He goes, "Oh, every time we go to this temple, they have this temple of Hanuman, for instance." So the guy he's looking at this thing, saying, "Mama, mama, monkey, monkey." And he's telling his own aunt, his own grandmother, "Mama, mama, monkey, monkey, what are you doing?" He's 8, maybe 7 years old. So I mean, intellectually, I was just saying, so now think about this. If you're thinking about those people who were worshipping idols, and that's what their forefathers did. Now think about taking those people, bringing them in a place like this, in Darul Arqam, and changing that mindset into believing in a creator that created everything that exists. To change those concepts, to work so hard on these people, those 13 years of such hard work to build these minds that would become the beacon of guidance for humanity till today. Just think about how hard you have to work, you and I, but brothers who are in da'wah, how hard you work, how many different ways you think of, and how many styles and tools and methods we think of trying to reach people. And these are Muslims, right? How much even this masjid in many ways is a tool. How many ways we try to just reach people, to just understand. No one has time. And imagine this, no one has time for the most important thing about their life. It's a weird situation. Majority of the humanity does not have time for the most important thing in its life. Humanity has reached the moon. But look at actual level of human brain, when it comes to actual progress, is that he will go to the moon and maybe take an idol with him on the moon. But can't realize who created this moon. How did I get here? What is the purpose of life? What is the objective of life? He said, did you not ever think about these things? They said, if we ever really think about too much, if we didn't get any answers, we would just go and have a glass of wine and forget about it. Literally, it was one of those things. He said, look, I would go and as a child, sometimes I would ask my parents these questions, said, how can we do this? And the guy was telling me that, look, they couldn't answer some of these things, so they would literally go and we would have this place, they would go to these wineries, they would sit down and drink a glass of wine and forget about it. Now, if you think about it, I wonder why the Arabs were so much into wine. Because how else do you answer these things? When you can't answer these things, just drink and forget about the day. And make yourself so busy. And if you think about it today, you look at humanity, how busy are we? How busy are we? You don't have time for yourself. You don't have time for yourself, not even a moment. And sometimes you ask the brothers, especially from different areas, where did you become Muslims? A lot of brothers, especially inner city, they said, look, I became Muslim in jail. You tell them, how come you do that? They said, because that was the only place where I had to sit down and actually thought about life. Then I realized what is actually the most important thing that I need. So dear brothers and sisters, this was the work that was done. The Prophet ﷺ literally brought the people to their realities, that human beings forget the things that are most important for them, that made their lives worth something, that made their lives or gave them objectives to actually live for. Life actually became worth living, or looking forward the next day to actually wake up and do something. If not, the life itself is not worth anything. So the Prophet ﷺ, he gave these people who had no objectives, and when they couldn't think about real objectives, what to do, they would drink themselves to sleep. Because as human beings, we need objectives. We need to get somewhere. We need to figure out why we are here. And all of a sudden, the Prophet ﷺ, he comes and he gives them that objective that nobody could ever clarify to them. All of a sudden, these people that had nothing to live for found a deen, found ideas that made them all of a sudden people who could now become rulers of the earth. That is the kind of work, intellectual, ideological, conceptual, molding of the minds that the Prophet ﷺ did in order to build these people, even if they're 50, 60, 70, from whom he could take them, build a nation like Medina, and from Medina to the rest of the world. And if you think about it, brothers and sisters, most of the khulafa, of course, they're all from the Muhajirin. Many of the people who did a lot of work, of course, they were Ansar also, there's no question about it, but I'm just saying the intellectual body for the longest time came from the Muhajirin. Because they had spent very close time with the Prophet ﷺ. They understood the minute details of the kind of ideas about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Prophet ﷺ was giving. So now, when I think about Sumayya radiallahu anh, I'm thinking, now of course we're going to Badr and we're going to Makkah, but I'm just thinking, as individuals, you look at Sumayya radiallahu anh, Sumayya who was a slave, whole family was a slave. And only reason she had become a slave was because she had owned money. And one of the things you would become a slave in Mecca was if you owned money. And if you couldn't pay back, you would become a slave until you pay back. Or forever, because you couldn't usually pay that back with all the riba or whatever else they had ways of just making money. One of the things that the Prophet ﷺ, one of the forms of slavery the Prophet ﷺ right away got rid of. And so she understands what, look, I'm being used as a slave, and my whole objectives has become to serve these people. As a human being, as a woman, my whole objective is just to serve this elite group of people or men of Mecca. That's all my objective is. And the moment this woman, subhanallah, radiallahu anha, when the moment she gets it, she understands that she was created for a whole different reason than just this. The moment she got it, they tortured her in ways probably no human being has ever been killed this way. And she was killed in that way, Abu Jahl, what he did to her. But the point is not even that. The point is that look what she says. Ya Rasulullah, I can smell the Jannah. When the Prophet ﷺ is saying to her to have patience, she's saying, Ya Rasulullah, I can smell the Jannah. I had a session yesterday, I was telling the brothers, I said, can you imagine for a moment? She's saying to the Prophet ﷺ, she's saying, Ya Rasulullah, do not worry about what's happening to me. Don't worry about what's happening to me. I'm going to go on. I am fulfilling the objectives I was created for, to worship my Lord that I never knew. I understood it. I got it. What's happening to me is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah wills. And is there a better way than to be happy with the will of my Lord? I'm going to meet Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm smelling the Jannah, Ya Rasulullah. You go on and fulfill the objective you were created for. Imagine that determination, that kind of man, a woman. That kind of personality the Prophet ﷺ built in her, that she's saying, you move on and you do what you need to do. Your objective, don't worry about me. You go on and you have much bigger objectives to do. I'm just the beginning and I'm doing what I need to do. If that's what needs to happen here for Quraysh to understand the objective, then let it be. The belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. That belief, like, Dr. Ayman, when he mentioned to me, I was scratching my head in a way. He said, what will we get in return? They asked. Right? They asked, what will we get in return? After sacrificing for you, after dying for you, after doing this, after doing that? Jannah. Hardcore answer. Jannah. Nothing. No money. We're not going to make deals. There's no real estate waiting. There's no, we're going to write that sign off for you. That resources will be, those gas lines will be for you. That will be for that. That will be, none of that. Nothing. Jannah. You want it, you take it. And so for them to say, oh, that's it, then there can be no better business than this. You ever think about that ayah? هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم? And I think about this ayah so much, and I said, what a business. What a business. Businessmen, they understand when they make a good deal. Said, oh, I got it, I made the deal. You think about those 2 days, how you made a deal. هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم ذلكم خير لكم. Imagine all these ayat about make tijara with Allah. But they knew what this tijara means, the trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal, the yaqeen in Allah Azza wa Jal. But it takes hard work to make your mind, mold your mind properly, to take ideas the way they are, to see realities the way they are, to be able to dissect nonsense from realities, from stupidity to clarity. You have to have work done on yourself in such a way that you can finally see things as clear as this water. That's the kind of work the Prophet ﷺ does. That is what brought in trust. The trust that we are talking about, that the Sahaba were willing to do whatever it takes. Sama'na wa ata'na ghufranaka rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. Whatever it is, Ya Allah, tell us what needs to be done. Not even imagine that. There is no, the Prophet ﷺ, what does Allah want? This is the way, then this is the way. But it comes from building that iman. The hard work that needs to be done to build that iman in the people, and that trust comes from building that iman. Then it doesn't matter whatever it is. Think about that. I was writing, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, look at Ibrahim. Rasulullah ﷺ was told to look at Ibrahim ﷺ as an example. We follow the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ was told, and if you think about from all of the Anbiya, he's being told, Millata Ibrahim Hanifa. Why? No other prophet was told to jump in the fire. No other prophet was told to take your son and slaughter him. No other prophet was told to take your children, take your family and take them out in nowhere. It doesn't matter. There is nothing grows here. It's guaranteed death. No, you take them there because Allah is telling you that. And so what is happening here? What is happening here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching the Prophet ﷺ, and hence us. That's what trust means. Trust in Allah means that if Allah is telling you, take your family to Wadi Zara, in a place where there is nothing can grow. Nothing can grow. Nothing is not possible. You go there and you leave your family there, and your family will survive there. And not only they will survive there, but from there will come amazing aimma. Amazing people will come from that land. If Allah is telling you that, leave them there. Tawakkal Allah haqqa tawakkul. What does it take to become like that? What does it become to have that type of mindset? What do you have to do to yourself to constantly say, how do I do what Ibrahim was doing? How do you take your son? How do you take your son or your daughter and take a knife and you're ready to slaughter? And how do you have a son that tells you, look, I don't want you to even think twice because it's the order of Allah. So do what you have to do to me. Turn me around. Close your eyes. Whatever it is that you need to do, but slaughter me. It's another thing what happened after that. But Rasulullah ﷺ is being told, that's who you follow. That's who you're supposed to follow. And he was the one that no one was tested this way. And Ibrahim a.s., he passed every single test. Why? Because of the trust in Allah. It is that, and that's why, when you sometimes hear Ali radiallahu anh saying, it would not make any difference for me in a second if I could see Jannah, if I would see Jannah now, it would not increase my iman in it. Meaning that I knew, period, it's there, Jannah. I'm not discussing here whether iman goes up and down, don't get me wrong here. That's not the discussion. I'm just saying that look what they're saying. That's it. We understood it. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do this, when they get to Badr, there are only 313 fighting 1,000. What kind of understanding does it take to say, Allah is telling you, you're going to be victorious? Okay, if Allah is telling you, you're going to be victorious, 313, heck, if I am 13, I will stand up. Trust in Allah comes in believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. And believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in actually understanding tariqul iman. There is a way to understand, there is a way to come to that type of understanding. And brothers and sisters, that is hardcore work. And I'll tell you why. When you think about this ayah, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. When some of the Mufassirin, when they talk about this, they say there's 3 types of creation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. There are those people who accepted they don't have a choice. They just follow the orders. If Allah wanted to create a creation like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. They're called malaika. They're malaika. Allah created them that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't ask why this and that's it. Allah said so, khalas. There's a creation that doesn't. It just does. It just lives, dies. It just works on its instincts. That's it. Animals. If Allah wanted to create a creation, He did. Animals. But it's only human being that actually chooses to be Muslim, meaning chooses, he makes a choice to accept the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, makes a choice to accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the creator, knows, understands clarity and takes it, admits it, submits to Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is the reason why Allah created Jannah, because Allah did not create Jannah for malaika. Allah did not create Jannah for animals. Allah created Jannah for human beings and jinn, because He gave them that facility in order for you to use that and to get to Jannah. And most people, 95% of the masses, if not maybe less, 95% of the populations, that is one thing that they don't use, is their mind. And they don't use for what it's actually been created for, is to recognize the Creator. We will use this mind for anything, as I said earlier, even to go to the moon. But we will not use this mind for the purpose it was created for, to recognize your Creator. It was not created so that you can make the best foods, that you can make the best, this, that, and the other. No, it was created in order for you to recognize the Creator, the Rabbul Alameen, because He wants to be recognized. And so that recognition, once it settles, once it comes in, that is what brings the trust. Because imagine, how can you not trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once you know who He is? How is that possible? تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما. Imagine all these ayat about, look at the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. Look at the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you. Look at who it is that created you. Understand and recognize who created you. Who's the one who's in control. So dear brothers, and so then when once that thing is clear, it doesn't matter 313 in Badr. It doesn't matter Uhud. It doesn't matter Khandaq. It doesn't matter where the munafiqeen are telling you, look, we can't even go and use the bathroom. And He's promising us Persia and Rome. While those who believed, they said that was the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah uses the people. Allah wants to test. Allah uses people. Allah tests people. Allah makes people from here to here. People fall from down to go up. Allah uses us. Allah is the one that makes things happen. Allah, in whose hand all of the things are in. So that hadith comes to mind. The hadith that says that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted you, remember the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, if the whole world comes, if the whole world, think about this now and think of Badr and think of Khandaq and think of Hunayn and think of all of these battles, dear brothers and sisters, and think about it, just this hadith. The hadith that says that if the whole world comes to harm you, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want you harmed, then they cannot hurt you an inch. And if the whole world wants to give you benefit and benefit you, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want benefit, they can try everything possible, but you will not be benefited. And the pens have been lifted and paper and the ink has dried. Just think about that hadith. How far can that understanding, if it's clear in your mind, do? Nothing in the world can harm me. And that, brothers and sisters, is a revolution by itself. That hadith, if understood, is a revolution by itself. You will never ever bow down your head in front of anyone. You will never trust anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will never be played. You will never ever sell yourself short for this petty price of the dunya. You will never ever you will realize the place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you and chosen you to be a Muslim, to submit to the creator of all mankind and everything that exists. So at the end of the day, and to end this, brothers and sisters, the work in order today, Makkah needs to be freed again. Makkah and Medina is under tyranny. Masjid al-Aqsa is under the filth. Makkah and Medina is becoming a place, imagine for a moment, Makkah and Medina is becoming a place for cinemas and pornographic. It's hard for me to come out. This is what's happening in Makkah and Medina. Our women, just imagine what's happening there and what's happening in Gaza. So we need to change our situation. We need to do the hardest work possible. Number one, to build ourselves in ways that determination, that clarity in the existence, iman in Allah Azza wa Jal, which will make everything else and every harm and every sacrifice a piece of cake. Once that clarity is in our head, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's all. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.